The Straw King, Chapter 18. "Hi, Glinda," the Scarecrow said. She was wearing her ball gown, but outside the grandeur of the throne room it looked slightly ridiculous. Her hair had come out of its elaborate updo, and her habitual smile was rigid rather than genuine. "We need to talk," Glinda said, and there was no mistaking the edge in her voice. Away from public scrutiny, she was a different person. A meaner one, he couldn't help thinking. Suddenly, he was tired of the witch and her endless scheming. "About what? Ozma is in the place, just like you wanted. She trusts you, and she'll listen to anything you tell her to do." Glinda didn't even notice that he hadn't bothered to include himself as part of her plan to control Ozma. He knew now that she never had intended to. It should have hurt or made him angry, but instead it made him think. Never again would he be tricked, just like never again would he be tied to a post in a field. He could just almost feel the crows landing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Never, ever, ever. He was only going to get better and smarter. Everything was a lesson. And every lesson was an opportunity, even this one. He didn't see any reason to pretend he hadn't figured out she was only using him and had no intention of sharing power. Was she surprised he'd been clever enough to see through her act? She didn't show it. She might be a liar, but Glinda was right about one thing. War meant casualties, and he could no longer be afraid to be ruthless. He'd have to learn fast, and learn on his own. He couldn't trust anyone other than himself. He'd stay one step ahead of Glinda, and anyone else who crossed him. Whatever it took, he'd be ready. "She doesn't listen to me as well as she should," Glinda said, tersely. "The business with pardoning Jinja." She shook her head. "The princess is too used to getting her own way. I think they spoiled her up in Gillikin Country. She'll listen to me for now, but this independent streak is troubling." "There's not much you can do about it now," the Scarecrow pointed out. "You're the one who made her queen." "We could put you back in power," Glinda mused, tapping her chin with one manicured finger. "You think I'd be any more willing to take your orders than she would?" He laughed. "Too much trouble," she said, ignoring him. "They're happy to have a new queen, and they wouldn't stand for another switch-up. The situation is too volatile right now. We need a stable ruler, at least for the time being, but there has to be a long-term solution." "I wish Dorothy was here," the Scarecrow said suddenly. Even if she didn't know what to do, she was always so happy. Those were the better times. For a moment, he almost wished he was the old Scarecrow. Maybe he'd been stupid, but he'd also been happy and carefree. "Well, obviously," Glinda snapped, and then her eyes widened. "Oh, Scare," she breathed, already really looking at him for the first time. "Of course, it's so clear. I can't believe I didn't think of it." She grabbed his hands, and despite himself a thrill ran through him. He was back in the game, and whatever he'd felt a moment ago, he couldn't resist the excitement. "You're absolutely brilliant." "I am?" He cleared his throat. He hated that praise from her could still for a moment take him higher than the flying monkeys had. "I am," he said, more confident. "Brilliant, yes. I can always come up with a good solution." "I just have to find a way to bring her here," Glinda said. "It'll take time, but I can do it. You'll have to wait for me. Can you manage it? I'll set you up outside the Emerald City somewhere. You can build yourself a nice little palace of your own and relax for a bit until it's time for us to act." The Scarecrow rated the plan he'd sparked. Bringing Dorothy back was something he'd wanted since she'd left, and when she got here, the Dorothy he remembered would have no interest in being queen. She'd put the Scarecrow back on the throne where he belonged, wouldn't she? He opened his mouth to agree when they were interrupted. "Glinda, Scarecrow, I've been looking for you all over." It was Ozma. The Scarecrow gave a guilty start, but Glinda didn't bash an eyelash. "You've nearly ruined your surprise, silly girl," Glinda chided. "Surprise?" Ozma asked eerily. "What surprise?" "It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you now, would it?" Glinda told her. "You'll have to be very patient. It might take a little time for me to fetch your gift, but when you meet her, I think you'll be very happy." "My gift is a person?" Ozma asked. "Do you mean a friend?" Glinda smiled, a radiant, gentle smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just you wait, my dear. Just you wait and see." The Scarecrow fought a sinking feeling that was overtaking him. Maybe when Dorothy got here, together with the Lion and the Tin Woodman, they could find a way to take Glinda down. Or maybe Glinda would convince Dorothy to do whatever she wanted, and he'd have to think of something else. "Oh, Glinda, you take such good care of me," Ozma said happily, giving Glinda a hug. "Of course I do, darling," Glinda said over Ozma's shoulder. She met the Scarecrow's eyes and gave him a sinister wink. "I'll always take care of you, Ozma. Always. Just like I take care of all my friends."